and some of the apps that are coming out, and they're really great, and you guys are great. And I have two boys, now 27 and 24. My wife is here. I don't know where she is. There she. Oh my God. And probably starting about 20 years ago, we started telling the kids it's the entrepreneurs who are. We are moving into the world of entrepreneurs. And whatever business you are in, whatever interests mean something to you, it's being able to have an entrepreneurial understanding of that and to guide yourself. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Philadelphia. My father was a world-class musician. He was an oboe player for the Philadelphia Orchestra. My mother was French. They had met during the war. I grew up in Philadelphia, and up until about the age of 12, I have to say things were difficult, mostly because I didn't know how to read. So I flunked. I flunked out of a number of schools. I think also I had a personality that was not interested in being told how to do things or when to do things. So I had a real, they couldn't find a babysitter for me. It wasn't that I wasn't polite or what have you. It's just that I was somebody who kind of acted out and was very clear. Nobody runs me, okay? But I flunked. And one day, when I was about 12, it was a Saturday night, and I was sitting in the bathtub. My parents had gone to the concert, and I was just kind of in a daze. I'm sitting in the bathtub. Maybe I was 11. And I pulled the plug, and I watched the water going down the drain. And I had an epiphany. I was circling the drain. Things were really bad. The level of tension for me was so high in terms of failing that I knew I was in real trouble. So as I got out of that tub, I thought to myself, well, who's going to help me? I knew my parents were not going to help me. I knew my teachers were not going to help me. These were just sort of like, it wasn't that I thought they weren't going to help me. I already knew they weren't going to help me. And I made the decision that God was not going to help me. Going back to the control thing. So as I was getting out and wiping myself off, I had another thought, which was, oh my gosh, for the first time I understand what they mean pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. I had never sort of understood that. And I was somebody who was always interested in, the Second World War because my father had been in the OSS and I knew all about it. My mother was French. And so I was very into that culture and the history of that and pulling you up by the bootstraps. And I went, well, the only person who's going to help me is me. Now that was both a huge epiphany and a sort of a huge relief. Except I didn't know what to do with it. I just knew that I had moved from here to this quantum jump over here. But I didn't know what to do with it. I went to another school. I had now flunked out of, I guess it was the 6th grade. And I'm in another school. And this was a school made up of wayward kids with wayward teachers. It was hilarious. And what was wonderful about it is that the teachers sort of were kind of out-of-the-box thinkers. And I had a teacher there who made an enormous impression upon me. And I would imagine that in every one of our lives, all of you, someone has been there for you as a teacher, maybe, hopefully. And you know what? If it hasn't happened yet, you'll get it here. Search it out. Mr. Biddle. Mr. Biddle was this crazy guy who would be the soccer teacher and the soccer teacher and the history teacher and the choral master teacher and he ran the assistant thing for the school and on and on and on. And he would come in and he would go, okay, we're going to do Handel's Messiah and we're going to do all of it. And we're like, okay. Like that. And our class was like 19 kids. So it was a tiny little private school, okay? We were always told, the guys were always told, if you flunk out of here, it's military school. That was the sword that was over all our heads. Well, he ended up, he came in and he goes, we're going to do Marriage of Figaro. I mean, who does Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, But we did. And then he came in one day and he said, we're going to do Henry V. It's March, I guess. March, April, May. Yeah, March. We're going to do, in 2 months, we're going to perform Henry V. And he picked up, the book and he went, like that. Boom! Lancie, what? You're playing Hal. In what? What are you talking about? Yeah. So in any case, I went home and I began to read it. Oh gosh, was that difficult. Whew, that was difficult. And I learned it, even more difficult. But I had a couple of months and then I performed it. And for the first time in my life, I was good at something. People came up to my parents, to my father, and said, he was the editor of the Pelican Shakespeare. He had come to see his granddaughter. He said, if your son has an interest, you should encourage him because he seems to have a flair at this. That summer, my father, we're sailing a little boat, maybe about this big. But I'm 14 years old and I'm as far away from my father as I can be. And he said, Johnny, you ever think of being an actor? My God, what stupidity. What imbecility. No. But it began to work. Because in fact, I was sort of good at it. And I had never been good at anything in school, ever. Okay. When I went to college, I couldn't really get into a major college. They took me at Kent State University because I was an out-of-state student and my parents were willing to pay the bill. And I went immediately into theater, okay? Which I was obviously sort of gravitating towards. When I left Kent State, and if any of you know about the Kent State, the shootings, the May 4th and what have you, I was there. I was really, really there. I ended up speaking, being introduced to Senator Kennedy. I talked in the Congress, in the Senate. I then went to the White House. So I was really, really there. And I then happened to take an audition. I was in San Francisco, and I had booked a room to work on an audition for the next day. I'm probably 23 years old now. To work on an audition for the next day. And there were a bunch of kids there who were auditioning for the other room. And I worked for an hour in this room, and then when I walked out, there was nobody waiting for this auditioner. And I said, excuse me, I don't have an appointment with you, but I'm doing a very important audition tomorrow, and I'd love to be able to work it with somebody. Would you mind listening? And he said, oh, sure. I did my audition, and he said, aha. I want you to sing Happy Birthday. I want you to sing Happy Birthday to your dead dog. Okay? I want you to sing Happy Birthday to yourself for a party that nobody has come to your party for. Okay? He said, how would you like to come to Julliard? I said, well, Julliard's a music school. Well, actually, along with other things, opera, dance, it's also a drama school. I said, no, I don't want to go to school. Not good. He said, well, we might be able to give you a scholarship. No. What did you think of my audition? He said, well, it was good. And, I said, because I have a very important audition tomorrow. I said, okay, so thank you. And he said, now, listen, we might be able to give you a housing scholarship as well. No. It's the best thing to negotiate, okay? Don't want what they're giving you. No. He said, before you leave, let me have your address. I said, listen, I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm sure I'm going to get that job tomorrow. So, well, in any case, I gave him my parents' address. I did not get that job tomorrow, the next day. As a matter of fact, I didn't get any of the auditions. And about 3 weeks later, my father, and I went to work, and the only time I've ever worked in a business, in a corporation, I was the Xerox man at Bechtel. Thank God I'd never have to do that again. And my father called me up and he said, did you audition for Julliard? I said, no, not really. They want you to go to Julliard. Yeah, no, I don't want to go to school. Do you know who you auditioned for? I said, no. You auditioned for John Houseman. Now, you don't know who John Houseman is, but do you know who Orson Welles was? Okay, well, that was John Houseman's producer. Okay, John Houseman was the biggest producer on Broadway. He ran Julliard, he did, tons of fantastic movies and stuff like that. He said, he wants you to come. I said, well, okay. So I sort of asked back my way into Julliard. But I began to understand something, and that is that I couldn't continue my life that way. I was, yes, sort of a risk taker because I had already been way, way down low. And I knew what it felt like to not succeed. So, how bad could it be? They weren't going to kill me. I had already flunked 6th grade. But I began to feel like I needed to start organizing my thoughts. Here on our imaginary continent, Antarctica, or life, you are dropped off, okay? Some people are dropped off here, and they have to make it here. We all know who we are. Some people are dropped off here. Angelina Jolie. I'm there. I've arrived. Okay? Some people, some poor schmo is dropped off, let's say you have to get here, is dropped off all the way there. And it's tough. And each one of you on this little chart here can plot where you think you are. That's it. Just accept it. Because you are not in competition with Angelina Jolie or me or anybody. You're in competition with yourself. When you start to think about what is it that, how do I begin to need to succeed, you have to start being able to articulate what it is that you want. I have talked to kids, I've talked to my own kids. People my age want to help people your age. But you can't come to me and say, I want to be in the entertainment business. I go, well, yeah, great. But if you say to me, I'm interested in being a dramaturg on restoration shows in a theater that really concentrates on that type of repertoire, I go, I think I can help you. And if I can't help you, I can find somebody who can help you. So being very specific is really important. What do you want? Otherwise, you become a feather for every wind that blows. You know, if it's sparkly, you'll go over there. If it's difficult, you'll go, oh, no, like that. It's what your girlfriend wants or doesn't want, or what your parents want. The fact of the matter is that it's about what you want, which then gets us to here. And this is a major, major part. And if you have something to write on, I'd suggest to start writing. Well, I actually don't, because that's too much of a school thing. But I will do this for you, is that I will explain it to you in detail, and then if you want to call me or talk afterwards, I will explain it to you in exquisite detail. You need to create a list. It is a private, never to be seen, never to be shared, never to be talked about download. A dump, a mind dump of what is it that you want. And it's really hard to do, and most people don't quite do it. I just happened to have an opportunity. I was doing a show last week, actually, at Oberlin College. I did a show there, and they asked me, oh, would you talk? I mean, it was a musical, a symphonic show. Oh, would you talk? I talked, yes, not unlike what I'm saying here, and I was sort of pleasantly surprised that about 10 out of 30 kids did this list. It's probably one of the most powerful things that you can do. This is what you do. 11 o'clock tonight, you turn off all your cell phones, you turn off all the music, you turn off, nobody comes in and talks to you. You sit there with a yellow pad of paper and you write down, I want. I want a haircut. I want to lose weight. I want to go to sleep early. I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want. It doesn't matter whether you repeat it. It doesn't matter, repeat something. You can say, I want a haircut 15 times as far as I'm concerned. But write it down. Write it down, write it down, write it down. Okay? It is a mind dump. It is far cheaper than any shrink. It's far more penetrating because you actually don't have to justify anything. You will never, ever show this to anyone. You'll never talk about it to anyone. It's not for public consumption. Okay? That's really, really important. All you are doing is taking everything in your head and putting it down on paper. I want, I want, I want, I want. 100, 200, 300 in an hour. If there's a period of time there where you go, I don't know. You just stay. Stay right there. Stay right there. Maybe you won't write for 10 minutes. And then it'll kick in again. And you just go back. Okay? Anything. You do that for 5 days. If you will do that for 5 days, you'll have, I don't know, 300, 500, 1,500. And then I promise you that I will take your phone call and explain what you do. Once you have gotten through all of this, you will now have a fantasy. Okay? Now I haven't given you any insight on what this means yet. So don't write to fantasy. Just, you will have a fantasy. Then that fantasy does something to you that most people don't have. It gives them direction. And it gives them momentum. Okay, now I'm going to stop for a second, and I don't want to run through all of this without asking you to ask me questions. I want this to be a dialogue back and forth here. Okay? So, yes, sir.
Why so private? Could it be just like a little public to friends or personal friends or something like that? Or
You mean like a list with music?
like you have to encrypt like your journal and just like no one but you could actually know, or is it like?
It's private because I want you to be able to say things about yourself and reveal things about yourself and write down things about yourself that you don't go, oh God almighty, if my roommates saw this, or my parents are going to come in and we'll look at it, or he's going to ask me. I would never ask you, and nor should you ever. In acting, there are lots of tricks to kind of keep things sort of a little edgy. You can have a secret. Yeah. You're running the camera. I can't tell you some of these. You want a fun secret? Okay, I was doing the Thornbirds. All right, and I'm doing the Thornbirds, and the shot is a whole bunch of the suitors for the beautiful girl, and the camera's down here, and she comes down the stairs, and she looks beautiful, and it's all gauzy, and the lights, and the smoke, and it's fantastic. And we know, just like this. Oh! It's even better than a hook. And in the script, it says that she sees, I forget what my character was, Alistair, that Alistair sees her and is smitten with love. I go, oh my God, what does that mean? What does that mean, smitten with love? All I could think of is, So in any case, we're shooting up there, right? And now, 3 hours to shoot up in that direction, and every dress is fantastic, I like that. But I'm going, oh my God, smitten with love. Smitten with love. They're going to turn the camera around, and then it's going to be me, and it's going to be smitten with love. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Oh. Okay, turning the camera around. It'll be about a half-hour setup. I'm out there, and I'm going, what am I going to do? And I go, oh. Well, actually, I was like this. What am I going to do? John, we need you. Okay. Secret. This goes back, by the way, to theater games. I took, as I'm walking in, the pocket, and I ripped it open. I then put my hands down there, and I don't happen to wear underwear. The camera rolls, my hand moves itself over. My concentration is completely on the fact that I am totally in public, playing with myself. And I look like I'm smitten with love. Okay. That's why you don't tell secrets, right? Because if I had told that, then everybody would go, oh, what's he doing, and stuff like that. Okay, so secrets have power. All right, another question. Yes.
Well, you say like the list gives you like direction and it gives you like a fantasy to reach for, but like fantasy by its like definition is unrealistic, like unachievable.
No. Let me just using the one to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Well, that's not a fantasy. Like tons of people have done it.
Well, here, my fantasy right now is that I want to sail to the South Seas. Okay? It's a little outside of what, is done. And let me tell you, the fantasy that you might have, and I don't mean fantasy as if they were unreal or as if they were unachievable. I mean fantasy in terms of this is something very important for you to do. I don't know, opening an ice cream store, right? That you could go. That's really important to me. Okay, does that clear up the use of the word fantasy? Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
What happens if you have conflicting desires?
What's that?
What happens if you have like conflicting ideas of what you want?
I'll tell you, but I won't tell you now.
Okay.
You will,
I will.
and that's just fine. I don't want you to edit.
Okay.
I want you to do 5 days with no editing. Okay? And then if you do that, I will talk to you for, as long as it needs, 15 minutes, a half an hour, where I'll explain to you what goes next. Yes.
First up, I'm sorry I took away your spotlight. Second, how is it that a fantasy is capable to give you momentum? Momentum for what exactly?
Well, let's change it around. All of a sudden, you just imagine a scenario where you wake up and you absolutely don't have anything planned on that day, right? So you're just, I don't know, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, into that. Now, that's the big difference. I'm not talking about external motivation, but just for the sake of argument, because this whole thing is about internal motivation. But into that comes, I got, a friend comes over, I have tickets for the World Club. That day all of a sudden becomes very clear. I've got to get this done, okay? So that's how you all of a sudden become motivated, right? Once you know what you want to do, you become motivated. It motivates you because you have to get over to the other side, right? Okay, pretty simple. Okay, next, yeah.
When you start that list at 11 p.m., how long do you go for?
I go for 1 hour. I go for 1 hour whether I'm writing or not. That's the discipline part of it. It isn't about being comfortable. Okay. And it's about doing it 5 times. Okay. Yes?
Why 11? Is like, or is
because 11's better than 10 and not as good as what's that? I was just trying to pick a time where you're not going to be bothered. Okay. Yes.
Does it matter the timing of when you do it, where you are in your life? For instance, a freshman might produce a different list.
Very much so. Very much so. And that list changes. I'm now good enough to I sort of do it like every day, sort of. I mean, but I don't want to give too much away. Okay? But yes, I should hope that your list is going to be different than his list. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, do you have any reason why people don't usually sit down and make a list like this? Like, what keeps people from doing it?
I think that's a great question. I think we all will piss away 5 hours of our time watching television. But if you ask somebody to do this and you go, my God, it's only 5 hours of your time for yourself in the most in the most focused way that you can be, there's a lack of comfort about it. I'm trying to make it still within the bounds of comfort, but without getting into what the second part is, which is not uncomfortable, but by simply saying, this is just a download. You're just downloading. But you have to do it. You have to do it. And I sort of challenge you by simply saying, who more deserves this 5 hours than you? This is something, this is for you. So this is something you're doing for you. Yes?
How realistic should you be in your fantasies on this list? Like walking on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, it's been done before. Walking on another planet, it hasn't been done before, but it's not entirely unrealistic within our lifetime. Meeting an alien species may very well be impossible. Where do you draw the line?
Well, I wouldn't draw the line at all. I mean, the fact of the matter is that since I'm sort of known in the science fiction world, understand something is that science fiction has become science fact. Somebody began to think about walking on another planet. And guess what? I have had people come up to me and say, gee, thanks so much for all the hours of entertainment. And if you want to see the real thing, and they handed me their card, and they were the guy who ran Vandenberg Air Force Base, because that show got him at least part of the way to a planet. Okay? So it isn't, you will self-organize, you know, you're going to know that after a while, you know. But I don't want to limit what you write. Okay, yes, sir.
What if I told you I don't need to write out this list because I have it in the back of my head?
Yeah, I would say write it out anyway. It'll be surprising to you. Okay? Just do it. Just do it and find out. You know? I mean, I have it too, but it's not in quite the same way. All right? And understand, you are taking sort of a sampling, a slice of this next week. In a year from now, that slice might look kind of different. Yes, yes.
So are you saying the kinetic process changes the reality of it from the back of your mind to this physical reality that you put down on a piece of paper, and that changes the thought process?
I don't know if that, I'm not saying that, you're saying that. But I'll go with it. That's good. That's good. And I'm not being flippant. I'm just saying that. No. It's just that I don't really know what the kinetic.
Right. It's a kinetic process.
Well, great. That sounds good. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Did you ever have a habit of stammering over your own words when you were younger? And in your voice acting experience, you did. How'd you get over it? What's the strategy you used to stop that and just be clear and enunciate?
I did not stammer, but my reading was such that I couldn't. As a matter of fact, here's going back to that period I was getting good enough as a kid so that when I was 16 years old, I took my first professional audition. And I got a call, I took my first professional audition, and I did well. And then they said, would you read this, cold read this? And to this day, I can remember looking down at the pages, and almost within an instant, sweat was just pouring, dripping down onto the page, obscuring the page. I couldn't put the words together. And the next day, I got a call, at my parents' house, and they said that they're going to hire you. I didn't go because I was so embarrassed. So I knew I had a problem. And what I began to do is that I began to read out loud. And my first girlfriend, who I'm still in touch with, I would have to, I go, oh, come on, John, let's go out. No, like for a half an hour here, you have to listen to me read out loud. Because I knew I had to get over that. So it wasn't as much a stammering thing, it was just getting it out. Yeah?
Earlier you said that you wrote down your wants daily.
For 5 days.
Okay, so how effective has it been? And how many wants have you attained?
Oh, in this period, in this 5-day process, I don't know, you'll have me specifically. Oh, I've done this exercise countless times.
So countless wants?
No, what it is that it's an opportunity for you to understand where you are today. But in a year or 2 or 5 from now, when you do it again, hopefully sooner than that, you will ascertain a new perspective as to where you are. Okay? Yes?
Can you write what you want from other people?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
If you start at one time, should you continue doing it at the same time for consistency?
Well, I picked a time. You guys are very, very, but I just picked a time that I thought might be a quiet time for you.
Did you start like one night at 11, the next day, should you also do that?
No, if the next day you want to do it at 5 in the morning, that's fine. Just do it for an hour. Okay? Okay. Yes? Okay, let's continue on. So, let's say now you have something that you want. Okay? This is what I call my toilet paper example. I did a soap opera years ago, and one of the things in which I did was I asked the guy who created the soap opera, I said, well, tell me now, how do you write a soap opera like a year long? They had like what they called the Bible. How do you write the Bible that's a year long? I mean, how's that possible? And he said, oh, well, John, it's sort of simple. You take 3 rolls of toilet paper. I went, 3 rolls of toilet paper, and you have your A story, B story, C story, and you write all of it out. And all of it out, and all of it out. Then you roll it back up. And then every day you take, depending, 2 sheets of A, 3 sheets of B, and 1 sheet of C. And then the next day it's, one of A, 2 of, and 4 of C. And I went, ooh, this is really interesting. Because if you have 3 projects that you're working on, 3 goals that you're trying to achieve, 3 fantasies that you want to accomplish, I could actually go downstairs in my office and do that. And if I say, and I'm not good at math, but I'm going to work for 6 hours, 2 hours, help me out here. 2 hours and 2 hours. Oh my God. Okay, but you understand what I'm saying? It's beginning to discipline yourself in terms of doing it. Another thing that I discovered along the way, and that is that most actors, and when I say most actors, you have to understand, I have only one, app. I have one widget. It's me. It's me. I tend to do this, though, is that I create an idea. So there's the idea. And then I find ways to expand that idea. So when I was doing Alien Voices, we needed a script. The first thing we needed was a script, period. Then it could be a radio show, a TV show, an audio. It could be a game. Had the script, no problem. Okay. So I try to find things that have a hub that then could be pulled out. And I also don't get too involved in well, that's not quite true. I do get involved, but I'm a big believer in you know what, I don't know much about games. I mean, I couldn't program it. And I actually not that interested in programming it. There are people out there who could. So why don't they and I get together, and then I say, here's a script, go off and do this. Here's a TV show, go off and sell this. So that I'm very clear about the fact that I don't want to be involved in all of these things. There are people who are actually better at it than I, as long as I am generating from the hub here. But we're off a little bit. So one of the things in which I discovered as an actor, and I think it had to do, frankly, about the fact that learning lines was so difficult for me. And that is that I came to the conclusion that everybody, when they get the job, when they get, you know, you get the, whatever it is, you get the app challenge. Today you got the app challenge. Or the job for the theater job. All of us would go, oh, great, my God, I've got to call all my friends. That'll be an hour. I'm going to go out and have, you know, go to the bar and celebrate with my friends. You didn't do any work that day. And what happens is that the work begins to pile up as you get closer and closer to opening. So that your last day, you're all doing these, you know, these all-nighters. But all-nighters, and I don't mean from a college point of view, I mean from, you know, a professional acting point of view, you do not work well under those circumstances. You just don't. So again, it's discipline. I reversed the process. I went, well, this is my first day, and this is my opening. So I did and do the most amount of work on the first day until I take it all the way to here. So that I believe in huge amounts of margin because things are going to screw up. So I want to put in as much work as I can in these things. Here's something which I want to show you, which, oh, these stupid pens. This is applicable to all of you in all professions. Because all of us have to go, this is what it's like to, in terms of goal orienting. Can you see this? Oh, too bad. You got the crappy seats. What can we do here? Oh, hey, cool. Is that you know, as I say to students sometimes who are actors, where they like, you know, here you are, first day of life. Nobody knows you, only your mom. Here you are, a star. Everybody in the world knows you. You could say, here you are on the first day of the app. Here you are, everybody in the world knows, you know, what an iPad is. Okay? Here is known. When you start out, and you notice how this is inverted here, the most pressure is in the beginning, and it's when you're starting out. So don't get all upset, oh my God, nobody will see me. Well, yeah, that's right. Nobody needs to see you. Nobody cares whether you're there. Nobody knows why you're here. Nobody's actually even, you are so below the radar. So don't get emotionally attached to that notion, like, oh, it's personal. It isn't personal, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Nobody knows you, and all the pressure is against you. But as you persist, you notice that the pressure lessens until you get to being to the known line. Now I'll tell you a story. I got a call from my agent. John, there's got a new casting director over at NBC, and I'd like to send you over there to, meet with her. Oh, God. Okay. I go over. How do you do? Now tell me a little bit about yourself. I had done 2 series for NBC already. I was, I got my nose out of joint about that. What do you mean, tell me? Understand, I was wrong in the end because that's not the reality of what business is. In fact, but she made it more difficult by, tell me a little bit about yourself. Ring, ring, ring. Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, no. Yeah, let's go. So there was that going on. Well, I left there going, oh my God, I've done a fair amount of work for NBC. Here's somebody new into this position. Instead of going, oh, John, I see you did a lot of work for this company already and stuff like that, she was just like, well, come on, seduce me. And I was upset. I was upset about it. I allowed myself to get upset about it. And I'm driving back, and I have another audition, which was within, an audition, which was, an hour and a half later. And it's at Disney. And Disney's, you can walk from one. So I'm driving past Disney, and I'm going, damn, screw this business. I'm not taking that audition. Who do they think they are? Okay. And then I calmed down. I went, look, I'm a professional. Just can it. Concentrate on the audition and go in and do it, which has something to do with show up, okay? Which I didn't write down there before, but I did? Okay. So I'm now over at the other audition. I'm prepared, I'm ready to go. I'm in a room made up of, 10 other guys who are all supposed to be, we're all competing for the same thing, of which there will be 30 or 40 who will compete for this particular role. It's my turn, I come up. They've been going in and out, I come up to the door and they say, John, could you wait a little while? Mel Brooks is walking across the lot to come see your audition. I'm now up here. I'm here, okay? And because I think, yes, I did a good job, and I had a great time, and it was ultimately, and he hired me, what have you. But I think part of it is that I was known enough for somebody to say, either he wanted to see me personally or somebody said, you need to see this kid, that he had made an investment, which was to walk all the way across. So he was coming in going, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, instead of, what? Yeah. Okay, so he had made an investment and I got the job. So this is really important to know that this takes place all the time. Okay. Oh, this gets into another thing. Looks matter. Okay? It's too bad. It's the way it goes. Looks matter. But so does preparation. So does enthusiasm. So does commitment. We also look for that too. Everybody looks for that. So again, if you don't look like Brad Pitt, and none of us do, I don't see anybody in this room who looks like Brad Pitt, it's okay. It's okay. Brad Pitt was helped quite a bit by his looks. And guess what? He also, stepped up to the task and became a really terrific actor. Here, by the way, this is the crazy thing that happens here. Here, you're down here and you want to play Hamlet and everybody goes, no, I don't think, who are you? Forget it. what you deserve, perhaps, to play Hamlet. You deserve for that app to be the best app in the world because it actually is. But you're not. It's really a hard swim. You get up here and somebody says, Hamlet, yeah, I want to play Hamlet, says Arnold Schwarzenegger. And people go, well, okay. So in a crazy sort of way, there comes a point up here that you actually get things that you don't deserve. Only because you're known. You're beyond known, okay? All right, so let me quickly go up. Say yes. Oh, should we stop for a second? Questions? Yes? What question?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Bravo. Okay. Say yes. Say yes. Okay? All right? I got called for this, and I went, what? Why would anybody be interested? Yes. Yes. And you know what? It made me then think, well, actually, there are a lot of things that I've sort of worked on over the years. And I have a lot of fellow students, or fellow actors who have come to me about these things, and we've talked about it. So I actually do have information, and if I spend a little time, scribbling it down, I might be able to say so. So, yes. Show up. Show up. It works this way. Yes, and showing up. Hey, you want to go to dinner tonight? No. Yeah, but yes, and there are all possibilities. Now, say no. Hey, you want to go to dinner tonight?
No.
You feel it? It's the end. It's the end. Nothing happens beyond that. Nothing happens. So train yourself to say yes. Don't spend your time with poopy people. Poopy people suck up the energy. Okay? I know people who come into a room, suck all the air out of it, and then complain that they can't breathe. Jettison them from your life. Stay away from them. Understand that they have a way of drawing you in. This goes back to fantasy. Whose fantasy is being served? Okay, and I want to talk about that because this is a difficult one, and oftentimes it's sort of a double-edged sword, and my wife is laughing. Whose fantasy is being served is a very powerful and somewhat, well, in any case, talk about what you're doing. It was really great tonight. We talked with the guys who, with the people who were doing the apps. Oh, I like that. The only way that you're going to get good at talking about what you're doing is to talk about what you're doing. And more importantly, as you begin to do that, and you begin to express the things that you want based on your fantasy, based on your list, based on you will see that people begin to think of you as someone who actually does things and accomplishes things. And things will begin to come to you. Okay? So become good at that. Just embrace that. So what are you up to? Oh, nothing. I don't care if I'm reading a terrific book on sailing, and it really has me enthused and whatever. Listen, I talked to my agent as I was walking over here. So where are you? Oh, I'm up in Merced. I finished talking to her, and she says, "God, you really sound excited about this." Well, I am excited about it. Okay? And when I said, I've got to get off the phone, she says, oh, we'll talk about it some more. Now she wants to talk about it. Okay? Money. Don't borrow. I think it's really terrible that we have gotten to, for the first generation in this country, that we are putting onto the future generation the cost of their education. I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. So there is, you just happen to live in a time where that's the case, and I'm really sorry about that. But don't borrow. Do everything you possibly can to not borrow. Here's something though. I'm a freelancer. Okay? I live through feast and famine. I know things that way. That's how I organize myself. So I like very large margins. Why? Because, oh, now, you need to put your hand over the camera right there. Would you put your hand over the camera? Over the lens, please. Yeah. Because I believe in fuck you money. Want you money means you can walk away. Okay? Here you are, big ice flow. Oh my God, it's a big job, it's great, I'm making money, you know, like that. That project ends, you hop over into the next ice flow. Oh, no problem. Okay. Then it's like, oh, whoa, this ice flow is a little far away. But you know what, maybe I can, you know, it'll move itself over here, and I'll hop on, great. But eventually, it's going to be over here. And this is cold, dark, and deep water. Now, for somebody who is competitive like me, and I look around at other actors, I go, cool. Good, let's see. I can't tell you how many of my competition went there and just floated away. You only spend money. Well, put it this: you never spend money when you're making it. It's completely different, isn't it? You only spend money when you're not making it to get from one ice flow to the next. Because I'm of the opinion that this is what you want to do. This is outside of what you want to do, but it's still sort of in the area. And then there are concentric circles out. Okay? Being a waiter isn't going to do diddly for your acting. Now, you can apply it to your own businesses. You have to figure out, I mean, there was a time where I was teaching 11-year-old girls at a YMCA how to act. I went to Julliard. Right? But I took it seriously. I felt that there was definitely a downtime, but I still felt that I was sort of in my profession, and interestingly enough, explaining to 11-year-old girls what an objective is, what an action is, what a focus is, required me to find new vocabulary and to synthesize very complicated ideas that I had, you know, kind of up here, and to bring it down. And I went, wow, this is helping my acting. Being a waiter was never going to help my acting, ever. Here is something that I did, Marnie, my wife, and I did, is that I played Amundsen in Terra Nova. Amundsen was the guy who got to the South Pole first. And Scott was the guy who didn't, okay? Interestingly enough, the big challenge is that Scott was going sort of, the esprit of, we are the. It was a notion of how to get yourself to the South Pole. And Amundsen was much leaner. He was the guy who didn't spend money when he was making it. Okay, as a matter of fact, he was the guy who made his way to the South Pole and then ate the dogs to get back, where the British were like, oh, that's just not the way it's done. Yeah, but he got there and back alive, and Scott died. So I'm playing this character, and I'm understanding that there's a lot of this character in me. And he did something which was great. They all did it, but this is something that you can do. Is that, and you can do this in all sorts of different ways. You can do it on a weekly basis. We were doing it on yearly and more than that basis. Here you are in time, you go out and you lay a cache. In this case, it was a cache of food. And then they came back. And then they would go back out and they lay another cache. And then they come back. And they go out and they lay another cache. And then they come back to maybe this one, which they had put enough, and then they go to this one, and then they rest up, and then they go for the pole. Well, that's what an annuity is. You put money out ahead of you. Well, you can do that philosophically with all sorts of ideas. Once you get this whole notion over here of the list, you can lay things out in time ahead so that when you get to it, they're there for you and they keep you moving. Okay, questions now. Yes?
So thank you so much for coming today. Everything you've said, these kids have heard for the last 3 entrepreneurs as well. But I just want to question, what skill or advice or class did you take that helped you become so successful today?
What
Advice, class, or skill
did I take?
Well, advice or class did you receive to help you become so successful?
None. You're asking me what class did I take in school? No, none.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's not what. No. Yeah.
Could you go over what you meant when you meant say yes? So, I mean, there are a lot of instances where people will say, oh, you want to go and do this, and it may not be part of my list.
Then you don't say yes. You're saying yes to your list at that point. A lot of people think that actors are, boozers and potheads. Actually, that's true. Actually, very rarely. You know why? Because we have to be at rehearsal at 10 o'clock the next day and have our lines down. And the ones who didn't work with that type of discipline are really not in the business. I mean, you hear about, the celebrity types, but for the most part, real actors don't operate that way because we have that going and we can prioritize very quickly. Yeah.
What did you mean by laying the cash in time? Like into the future, well, how do you do that?
I'm a little hesitant to talk about that because it has so much to do with the list. Okay? It has to it is taking a goal and breaking the goal up into its component parts and approaching it that way so that you're going out from where you are and placing things. It's sort of, so if you do your list, I will happily answer that question. Yeah.
All these things are great. They're really, really interesting to think about. But one thing that kind of still sticking in my mind is there's a lot of people that are going to have a lot of similar ideas and a lot of other similar kind of traits that they hold. What can we do as young adults that can help us kind of get ourselves to the next level over people that may also be competitive and may also have a good idea of what they want?
Oscar Wilde, do you know Oscar Wilde? Do you know who that was?
A little bit.
Okay. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that fit whether you're an introvert or an extrovert then?
Yeah, because there are lots of things that you're going to do that are going to be peculiar and mean special things to you, and conversely to me that we might not share back and forth. It's not how you react. It is sort of how you react to the outside world, but it's mostly how you react to your internal world so that you can feel sort of good about it, or yourself. This is about feeling good about yourself. And not being a feather for every wind that blows, and having an idea of where you want to go. I mean, I just saw somebody in Vancouver and he said, hey, how are you? Great to see you. What are you up to? I'm doing a television show. And I walked away going, oh gosh. And then I went, what am I being envious about? He's living up in a hotel in Vancouver, knocking off a crappy television show. Thank God I have my touchstone, which allows me to go back to that rather than get spun a little bit. So, yes, yeah.
So a lot of professionals, over time, at one point or another, they hit the wall, metaphorically. And have you ever has that ever happened to you?
Constantly. And the issue is how fast you get back on the horse. Exercise is a great thing. Okay. Not taking it personally, which is very difficult, is a great thing. That requires an enormous amount of discipline, but you just have to decouple that part and just get back and start working again. Because after all, that sort of makes it, when you consider the long, long trail, if you use like large metaphors, the people who were coming out to, the pioneers who were making their way out to the West Coast and what have you. I mean, there's so many things, I can't take it any longer and what have you. Well, they fell by the wayside. That's all. And we're all susceptible to that. It's just that you just have to discipline yourself. It's very difficult. And actors are constantly being disappointed. Yes?
So thank you again so much for being here. We have a lot of our app teams here tonight. They're presenting tomorrow.
Okay.
As part of their finalization, and everybody here should have voted. If you didn't hurry before midnight to get there, can you give them some advice on how to present their idea, a little bit of all the stuff you're saying, but they have to get out there and have this talk about it.
What time is your talk?
They have different times, but it starts at 4:30.
Okay. I mean, if you were willing to think for a moment that you weren't in real competition with each other and what have you, I would say this: you get around in a circle, and have you decided on who the one person is who's going to kind of be the pitch person?
Most of the teams have.
Okay. Get around the circle and one start to the rest of you. And this is what the thing does. Great. And you just get that up into RAM, as it were. You get it up there. You just get working, and you get excited about it, and you get all of the words that you're going to use, and running. You practice. You do a little practice, and if you are truly I mean, this goes along the lines that there are two theories. Not only must I succeed, but my best friend must also fail. That you've heard that one, right? Okay, but you can also go along the idea that all of my friends' successes add to my success. So so if you work that way, then you can be encouraging and supportive of the people in that circle. Everybody is encouraging and supportive, and they go, okay, and off you go, Bob, into the room, and stuff like that. And Bob comes in, how was it? Oh, God, it was great, and I was just a little nervous, and, and somebody asked me this, and so, okay, but, Harry, off you go, okay. And you can do that. Why not? Why not? So that would be one thing that I would do. Yes?
How do we contact you after we make our list?
I will give an email to Brian. Okay. Yes?
You said we shouldn't borrow money, but then you also said to say, like, F you the money. So.
Well, money is if we had more time, money is a tool, but money is a tool which serves a function, and it's a fantasy and stuff like that. For me, money was never about buying things. Money for me was maneuverability. And I rather sleep better than eat better. Okay? I rather not work on projects that I don't want to work on than have to work on projects that I don't want to work on. So that's, but those are big. So that is a quick one. Yeah.
So sort of expanding on what you're saying about poopy people is. How do you really decide whether somebody is just a real detriment or whether there's somebody who's worth interacting with? I know you were saying that you like to be able to just let go of a project. Is it hard to break off all these social groups that you're developing, all these people that you're meeting and having to work with?
I feel like that's two questions. So the thing is this, is that in your life who the people are that are sort of a drag. It doesn't take much, right? And you suffer them for whatever certain reasons. But you have to start thinking why you do that. And are they whose fantasy is being served here? You might discover that you're the type of person who sort of needs that type of thing going on, which is an interesting thing. But the question is that what's it going to do to you being able to get what you want? My feeling is that a successful life has a lot to do with being able to get what you want. And I don't mean that in a selfish sort of way. I mean in a holistic sort of way. A lot of women marry the theater. And they get to be like 45 years old, and the theater spits them out. Their fantasy was sort of clouded with what the reality was, and so they've made a choice. Some people, I grew up with somebody who only was a careerist. So I'm of the feeling is that you try to move everything forward. Your wife, your children, your career, and you try to have as many of those things in life as possible, because that's sort of irons in the fire in a way. Okay? Okay, two more questions. Yes, ma'am.
So I was wondering, you've been doing this list for quite a while. And I suppose at some point you compare the list that you've done 10 years ago with the list that you've done now. Have you had any major revelations in terms of how they change? What happens?
Yeah, my major revelation is that I'm not that interested in acting anymore.
Me neither.
I just kind of go, I've been doing this since I was 14. I'd like to do something else. Yeah.
Okay, you're a pretty cool guy. Do you have any regrets?
Give me a call later. Yeah, I sort of, I wish that I had dealt with the reading issue earlier on and all that it encompassed. And I wish that I had somebody who kind of mentored me a little bit, so that I could kind of organize my thoughts, because the fact is that it's held me back. So I regret that. I regret I didn't grapple with that early enough, and now it's almost sort of too late, especially if I just say I'm not that interested in acting anymore. So, yeah.
Just now with your answer for the gentleman to my right, with having everything moving forward, are you saying that your philosophy is planting all of your seeds at the same time so that they will bloom together? Because
well, I'm a big believer in many irons in the fire. Okay? So you got your toilet paper list over there. You should have you should not, I don't think, but everybody's different. I don't think that you should be so focused on your, here's a good example. When I was an actor, young actor, one of the older actors, here's something that's important. Spend a lot of time with older people, especially people who are 20 years and then 40 years ahead, because they are a time machine in terms of what you want and where you might be going. When I was a younger actor, I looked very closely at the actors who were, when I was 20, I looked very closely at the actors who were 40. And one thing I began to notice is that the ones in the theater, at least, were doing a lot of heavy drinking. And that was telling me that something was wrong. And I had a particular thing. Now, as I said, I'm not somebody who's about, having possessions. But I helped a guy who was late for rehearsal. And he said, goddamn car and stuff like that. And I went out there during the break. And I said, well, I know a little bit about cars. I might be able to help you. And he's kicking this old VW that he had sort of pushed there. Now, he's about 50 years old, and he's got kids and what have you. And he went into a very sad and angry diatribe about how, he had gotten to this stage in life, playing wonderful roles in the theater, but having to push this car. So it became a metaphor, and I really took that seriously. So I look around, you have to try to get an overview on things. So ask people. One way in which you can get an overview is to have older friends. The other way is to try to get up and look down around things. There's a big difference between people who are smart and people who are wise. There are a lot of smart people around, but they're the ones who spell check. Okay? It's the wise person that I think you want to be. So I don't know. I'm rambling now. Okay. That's it? Okay, great. Thanks. Every one of these is trademarked.
John, our only regret is we don't have more time to spend with you this evening, but we certainly hope that you'll come back.
I will.
And see us again. And
Thank
please,
you.
again, folks, one more time, join me in thanking Mr. John Lancie.